Welcome to the Go Flush Yourself podcast with Jared Kirk and Matt Milbauer. On today's podcast, we have Steve Dunsmore, a Springer Spaniel owner and upland hunter from Northwest Pennsylvania. I hope you enjoy the interview. Thanks for coming on, Steve. Appreciate it.
Hey, like I said, I think what you guys are doing is great. I give you guys a lot of credit for doing it because there's just, there's not a lot out there on flushers, especially in the upland. And nothing again. I have a lot of friends with pointers. Nothing against them. There's some phenomenal pointing dogs out there, but there's just nothing on flushers.
Yeah, we agree. That's kind of why we started it.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you've been listening to a podcast and there'll be a guest with a flusher. I'll listen to it like 3 times because it's the only content we have.
Sure.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Steve. So I'm here with Jared, and I'm just curious, maybe give us your background on how you got into upland hunting, flushing dogs, anything else related.
Sure. So I'm from Northwest Pennsylvania. Like a lot of boys from Northwest Pennsylvania or just Pennsylvania in general, you grow up deer hunting, right? Grandpa, uncle, somebody's got a camp. And it was great. Don't get me wrong, very positive. But as I got older and, basically deer camp was also in grouse territory here in Pennsylvania. And, I'd be walking around at 12, 14, 15, 16 years old. And I was like, man, I want to start hunting grouse, but I knew nothing about it. And I didn't have a mentor. Everybody told me, oh, you're never going to shoot one unless you have a dog. So once I got into my 20s, I said, you know what, we're going to give this a go. And I got my first Springer and I had no idea what I was doing. And, this was 20 years ago. There was no YouTube. There was no podcast. Internet really didn't give you much. It was whatever you could get your hands on, hardback, talk to somebody. But again, in my area, there wasn't a lot of people per se with flushing breeds. And everybody was so tight-lipped. So I literally got my first English Springer Spaniel, and through a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, I had a little bit of success and started, beating the woods of Pennsylvania looking for grouse. Got into some pheasant hunting as well, and I'm now on my second Springer. We do a lot of upland hunting. I truly enjoy it. I've kind of gotten away from the deer hunting aspect. I've kind of gotten away from archery hunting as well, just from the simple fact that I have this English Springer Spaniel at home, and I can't justify my mind to be sitting in a tree stand or when I could be running her.
I can sit up
on birds.
Yeah. I mean, so what I kind of have the same thing is like, I have a friend who said, who asked me if I want to go turkey hunting. It's like, I can't really bring my dogs. You can't run dogs on turkeys here in Washington. So it's
right.
I really don't want to go. Like, I don't want to fish. I can't bring my dog,
Right. Yeah. And I've never really been a turkey hunter, but I didn't do any spring turkey hunting at all this year, predominantly because I'm really not a turkey hunter. But at the same time, I did a lot of chucker challenges and UFTA events this year with my dog, just as something to do because, again, I can't justify her not being able to chase birds, and if I got to drive 2 hours to participate in a chucker challenge or a UFTA event, I'll do it, because it's what she was born and bred to do, and let her chase birds around. That's what's important to me.
Cool. So why did you pick out a Springer Spaniel? Why'd you go there first? Like, you're talking maybe, was there a reason you didn't go towards pointers in general, and when you went to flushing dogs, why a Springer?
Well, why a flushing dog? Number one, again, nothing against guys out there with pointers. For me personally, it was just a personal choice. I love the excitement of walking a field, walking a hedgerow, walking the woods for grouse, woodcock, and watching that dog get birdie and watching her, flush that bird. It just excites me, it's truly more of a hunt for me. As far as the Springer Spaniel breed, for me personally, geographically where I live, it's really versatile. One day here in Pennsylvania, we could be hunting stocked pheasants on the state game lands, and later that day or later in the week, we could be in the Allegheny National Forest chasing grouse. Very versatile as far as lots of energy.
Yeah.
They'll hunt all day long. Um, I don't really do any duck hunting or waterfowl hunting with her. Predominantly upland. I like the size. The breeder I got my dog from, he had told me, he's like, when you're outside or you're in the field, it's going to be go time, 100%. But she'll turn it off in the house, and I was like, yeah, right. No, she does. She turns it off in the house, and she'll be on the couch, and guys, you'd have thought she bought the couch the way she sleeps on that couch.
Yeah.
But I live real close to Lake Erie in Northwest Pennsylvania, and all these summer months we're swimming 2-3 mornings a week. We're doing bumper work and retrieval work. Just a really good fit for me personally. And again, nothing against the other breeds. I know a lot of guys with pointers. I know a lot of guys with labs, and they work well for them. But for me, it was just a personal choice as far as I like the size. I like what I can do with them. It just really does work for me. And again, at the end of the day, when you're out hunting and you hear that rooster cackle as the dog's flushing it, like that's just an adrenaline rush for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Cool. So I think I heard that, or I think I heard from you earlier that you have like a rec specs or goggles for your dogs. Is that true?
Yeah. So
tell us about that.
Yeah. So I just to give you guys some background, my Springer, she's about 36, 37 pounds. She's a little bit on the smaller side, which is nice and what I prefer for my Springers. But here in Northwest Pennsylvania and in Pennsylvania, we go through a lot of thick stuff, especially as those grouse really get hit and hunted hard. Same with the pheasants. And we had a couple eye injuries, nothing major, but she'd come out of some of that stuff that it just beat up. So I literally just started looking. I was like, there's got to be something out there, right? Came across the rec specs, and sure enough, got them. And I was a little apprehensive at first. I mean, I know a lot of guys use them in other parts of the country and stuff. Personally, I can say nothing but good things about them. Very happy with them. I got them a little bit later in the season, and just like with any of the other trainings, you make it fun. So I introduced the goggles to my dog, and through a training session, and we went out and hunted on them. We're with them, and she hunted the same, regardless if they were on or not. So then, after a couple hunts with them, I realized, I was like, well, I took the lens out and I started looking at the lens. I was like, I felt terrible because that lens is just beat and scratched. I was like, my God, like I have all this time, effort, and money invested in my dog, and I wasn't protecting the eyes. And just to be able to see how beat up those lenses got, really made it hit home. Like, hey, you put so much into the dog. It's important to protect the dog, especially those eyes. And there was, like I said, there's a couple times we had some briars and stuff in there, and I'm 1.5 miles from the truck and trying to flush her eyes out in the middle of a field and get her back to the truck. And that's kind of how it all came about. They're easy as far as maintenance. You just pop the lenses out and wipe the mud and stuff out. I just Dawn dish soap and warm water, and you just scrub everything out and dry them over, or hang them up to dry over the slop sink, and you're good to go. I like how the lenses are interchangeable, so I always keep a backup in my vest, just in case, one gets truly damaged while you're out hunting,
Yeah.
or something happens to them. But probably the biggest thing was just figuring out the right size. And the Rec Specs brand, they do a good job with giving you that cheat sheet or chart. But yeah, that was a little bit of a challenge, just figure out what exact size I needed. But honest guys, I would recommend the Rec Specs to anybody. I do some youth hunts, I do some veterans hunts as well. And, people will show me like, oh, what's with the goggles on the dog? Well, hey, again, you put all that effort and everything into the dog. If that helps keep the dog's eyes safe, I'm all for it. And again, at the end of the day, she doesn't hunt any different with them on,
Right. Yeah, I've been actually toying with those for a little bit now. Do you use them every time you hunt? Like, I would definitely understand using it when you're grouse hunting in the woods, but if you're in an open field, like for preserve pheasants, I think you mentioned earlier, are you still running the Rec Spec also?
Absolutely, yeah. Every time we hunt. Again, didn't have any major eye injuries where anything required surgery or anything like that, but and the springers. I mean, they get those. I don't know. I call them eye boogers. I don't know the official name for them, but it just we use them every hunt. They truly do. They do help.
That's cool. It's good to know. I haven't heard too much about them yet, but I've been looking into them, so it's good to hear a positive experience.
I had a question.
And I mean, you figure if the military and these police dogs, they're putting them on their dogs. They got it. That was my thought too. It's like these things got to work, and I get it. I was apprehensive at first, and I hem and hawed, and then once I got a pair, like I said, I started looking at how beat up and how scratched and stuff those lenses were getting. I felt terrible because I was like, wow, I gotta do a better job as a dog owner protecting my dog when she's out there doing all this hard work and putting in all this hard work for a bird,
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Steve, so you said something about the lenses. What are you running, like just the clears, or are you running any like the I know they got a bunch of different versions. What lenses are you running?
Yeah, so when you get them, they send you the ones I got, it came with a clear lens, and then came, I believe, with like a sunglass lens. I always run the clear lenses. I know they make all kinds of different lenses and stuff, but I always use the clear lenses, and sometimes I'll take a little anti-fog and put it on the inside, especially if we have snow on the ground, if it's going to be a wet hunt, that type of thing, just to help with that anti-fogging. But yeah, predominantly straight clear lenses. It truly hasn't been an issue for me. I've had nothing but success with them. And again, I'd recommend them for anybody to at least give them a try. Again, it's a small investment given how much other investments you put towards your dog.
Yeah, how much a vet bill could be
up
with an eye injury,
right?
In an eye injury.
Yeah, and again, you're some of these places as upland bird hunters that we hunt. I mean, we're miles from the nearest town, let alone an actual vet or a vet, a vet hospital per se. So yeah, I mean, again, I'd recommend them. And just like anything else, anytime you introduce something new to the dog, I wouldn't do it the first time as a hunting situation per se, but make it fun, and they should adapt to it with no problem.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of process there to get them used to them, but yeah, I've seen some dogs out in the field with them on, and it has me curious. And good to hear. So I also hear you're involved with Pheasants Forever. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So here I'm in Northwest Pennsylvania, and we have a chapter, and I try to help out as much as I can. We do a couple youth hunts every fall. We'll have 2 in October here. It's for boys or girls, 12 to 16, and it's a way to introduce them to upland hunting. We buy birds for them. We stock the fields the night before. We do a lunch for them. We usually pair up either 1-on-1 or 2-on-1. Sometimes mom or dad will accompany them. We, invite them into the field and stuff with us. But basically, it's just an opportunity to give a young person who may not be exposed or have a means to potentially bird hunt, just give them the opportunity, And I got to say, I've killed a lot of birds over my dog. I'm hopeful that I'll kill a lot of birds over my dog this fall. But to give somebody else the opportunity and see the excitement on their face and to expose them to something that they don't get to do every day is very rewarding. It's nice. It's nice to give back and help out and see the excitement on the kid's face, whether it's a rooster with a 26-inch tail or it's a hen. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. The kids are out and they're giving it a go and they're trying, and the dogs are getting work, and it's all volunteer based. It's just a lot of fun.
Nice.
And then typically in the spring we'll do one with veterans, either or active military, and that one's basically along the same lines. Pull a group of vets together and we take them out hunting for a day, and again we'll buy the birds and stock the field the night before, but it's just a really good way just to give back and again give these guys an opportunity. They give so much and make so much sacrifice for everyone else. It's nice to be able to see the excitement and give them an opportunity to shoot a rooster. They're very appreciative, very respectful. They really do enjoy seeing the dog work and all of that aspect. There's a lot of laughs, a lot of smiles, a couple misses here and there, but that's okay. That's hunting, right?
Yeah.
We all miss. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, very, very, very cool. I neither of my kids hunt or have any interest in hunting, but my nephew this year, he's 12 or 13. He asked if he could come out and try out pheasant hunting over my dog. So pretty excited to do a youth hunt with him. I totally get that thought that it's great shooting a bird with your dogs, taking someone else out new and having them do it is even more exciting. So looking forward to that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you guys know, that it's all got to come together, and to watch it come together from the bird getting doggy to from the dog getting birdie.
Dog getting birdie.
To,
yeah.
From the dog getting birdie to the dog, flushing that bird to someone that is an experienced upland hunter or someone doing it for the first time, for them to knock that bird down and to see the dog come running through with that rooster in his mouth or her mouth. I mean, that's huge. That's a great day, a great moment right there. And again, at the end of the day, I do quite a bit of hunting. I as long as it's all done safe, I don't care who shoots the bird over my dog. I like to see her be able to do what she was born and bred to do, and if I can give someone else the opportunity and give them a positive experience, that's what's important.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, we're just actually I just started. We're just starting up the Pheasants Forever chapter in our area. There's a couple others kind of in towns or counties further away from us that are pretty successful. We've never really had one here that's taken off. So we just had our first meeting and got officers elected. I think I'm treasurer. No, I'm secretary.
Oh, nice.
But just get it started. So we're trying to think of like ways to get out and do things. We've definitely been thinking about youth hunts and chapter hunts and that kind of thing. So good to hear that it's successful for you all out there.
And I mean, I'm in my mid 40s, guys. The guys that have done it before me, it's great, but there's somebody's got to take over and somebody's got to get involved and keep this going. There's to be able to give these kids an opportunity or give the vets an opportunity. That's truly what it's about.
Yeah, for sure. So you're from Northwest Pennsylvania. Have you ever ventured out west our way or anywhere out west and hunted out or in a different kind of environment than what you're used to? Or have you stuck around home?
Yeah, so I do a lot of hunting here in Pennsylvania, like I said, but I have been out west. I've been out west for big game hunts. I was probably 10, 15 plus years ago. Okay. But we also did, we did some pheasant hunts in eastern Colorado years ago. I've hunted in the Dakotas a little bit, like driving to or from Colorado to do a big game hunt. We stopped and hunted. One thing I am looking forward to this fall is my youngest brother and I and one of his buddies. We're going to be going up to Michigan in November, and we're going to do a couple days of grouse hunting up there. But yeah, I've been a hunter my whole life. Different species, different target animals type thing. I just enjoy being outside and being in nature, and being able to harvest an animal is great, but at the same time, just being out there is what it's about. And I again, at the end of the day, I really do enjoy watching the dog work, and when it all comes together, it makes everything else worth it. It truly does. From that whole puppy stage to trying to kennel train your dog, and the first night you bring the dog home, and nobody in the house gets sleep, right?
Yeah.
And all those, and I know you guys, summertime out there right now. I know it's hot for you guys as well, and getting up early in the morning, doing those trainings and those half-hour exercises just to keep the dog sharp and somewhat in shape. It come October, November, December, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, I mean, you have a hunting dog, right? You get 10, 12, maybe 13, 14 years out, you only have so many hunts. You only have so many sunrises with that dog. Those mornings you don't want to get out of bed and do it. You gotta pull yourself out and do it. Like you just do. I mean, it's just part of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So hunting out in Colorado and Dakotas, what between that and hunting back east? I've never hunted back east at all. But curious, like what are the big differences? Is there one you prefer more than the other, or are they different enough to where they're just different?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously out west, you have the opportunity for a lot of wild birds, right? I mean, nothing beats a wild bird. And if you can harvest that wild bird, even better. I like hunting out in the Midwest. I like hunting for wild birds. Here in Pennsylvania, we do have right now we have a sustainable grouse population. I mean, I know guys that didn't grouse hunt this past fall because they said the numbers were too low. But there's still pockets of grouse in Pennsylvania. You just gotta, you look on Onyx and you look on the maps and you put boots on the ground. You never know what you're going to stumble into. As far as the pheasants here in Pennsylvania, we have what we call the Pennsylvania Game Commission. We have a special stamp. It's about $30 solely to hunt pheasants. They stock local game lands all throughout the state. There's days where I don't hunt because they drop birds, and it confuses the hell out of the dog, right? I'd prefer to hunt 2-3 days after stalking, and really let those birds get spread out and get acclimated, and truly make it a hunt. And then in the off season here, Pennsylvania doesn't consider chukar a game bird, so you can buy chukars and use them for training. Back east here, we have what they call chukar challenges, where there's a pointing division, flushing division. It's a nice way to keep your dog on some birds. But again, it's they're great events. Don't get me wrong, but it's a game. It's not truly a hunt. But at the end of the day, I love chasing wild birds, and you get one, great. If not, hey, you had a great day, an amazing experience, and you got out there is what's important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have a similar thing out here. So we have wild bird populations like of pheasants, not as good as Montana or the Dakotas, that kind of thing. But we have stocked public lands as well. So I definitely feel you on the day. If you get out there on the day of the release, it's great. It's also usually pretty busy, but yeah, it can confuse the dog, especially when it depends on how they release the birds. If they release them all in one place or in a couple places, or if they really spread them out.
Right.
But I've seen that before too, where it can confuse the dogs on what's going on, because it's much different than a wild bird hunt.
Yeah, my favorite here in Pennsylvania is you'll pull up and you'll be getting the dog ready and getting your vest and your water and everything, and somebody will pull up next to you and be like, "Hey, did they stalk birds today?" I have no idea, and I really don't care. But we're going out anyway, you know.
Right,
And
right.
you know, it might be 2 hours later, and that same truck drives by. It's like, did they put out birds? No, they didn't put out birds, but you got feathers coming out of your pack. You're coming back heavy, you know, with a bird in your vest.
Yeah.
If it took 2 hours, so be it. That dog hunted. That dog got to do what it was born and bred to do. Like, that's what it's about, you know. But again, if that works for people, great.
Yeah, sure.
I don't judge. You know, I want to make it as long a hunt as possible. And you know, we're here in Pennsylvania. You're allowed 2 birds. Doesn't matter if it's a rooster or a hen. And you know, it's one of those things where it's like, who wants to go? Who's available to go today? You know, just to let the dog, you know, get a couple more birds or flush a couple more birds per se.
Yeah.
Just go.
So there's I had that. I think it was last season. I was at a fairly popular public land spot that they do stock occasionally. The state does, and I get that question. I go come out of the field and someone may be there and kind of the main parking lot and ask, "Hey, do they stock today?" And I always just say no. Like, if you want to get out, get out. But like, everyone's kind of in a different spot hunting career, right? And people are just out.
I get it.
Like, they're like, I just want to get some birds.
I get it.
They stock today. I need to get out there. And other people are like, you know, maybe more where it sounds like you and I and Jared are, where it's just like, I want to get the dogs and watch them work. And I stock today. Maybe I don't want to get out. I want to give it a couple days before I get out there. But I think it was last season, a guy asked me that, and I said, because I had a bird in my pouch. It was a wild bird. I'm pretty sure they did not stock, and I came out, and the guy's like, "Oh, where'd you get that bird?" And it's a fairly big chunk of land, and I just said, "Oh, the very, very, very back, far." Like, you gotta go out there and get it, just so you could go out there and look. You know, it really wasn't. It's actually really close to the parking lot where I got that bird, but it's like, just get out there. Like, I'm not gonna tell you it's right there. You can go try to find one, but yeah, I totally get it. Cool. So you've always had springers. It sounds like you're under. You got a couple. Okay. If you had to have it, or first off, are you always wanting to have springers? And if not, or even if you are, if you had to have another breed, like, what would you be going after? What would you be looking at? Would you stick with the flushers? Would you be curious about a pointer?
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. I'm confident I'll have a Springer in the future, and my plan is right now. I will probably have a Springer until I physically can't keep up with one.
Fair enough.
That makes sense in life. You know, whether that's 65, 75, 85, as long as I'm able to give that Springer the life, you know, they deserve in my mind, I will always have a Springer. You know, I've kind of kicked around the idea of getting another one. My current dog, you know, she's 4.5, but at the same time, it's like they're a lot. You know, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of money, and I'm like, man, to as much as I'd love to get another one, you know, it's like, man, this is a lot. You know, but again, it's like anything in life. You only get out of a hunting dog what you put into it. You know, you only get out of, you know, a career what you put into it per se. But yeah, I'm confident in saying, as long as I maintain my health and my physical capabilities don't decline any, I will have a Springer until I no longer can.
So if you get to the point when you can't keep up with this Springer, is it no more bird dogs, or is it like going to a retriever like a lab, or going to a pointer? And
Well, you got to go a pointer because they're easier.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'd really have to see where I'm at in life. You know, that it would certainly be an adjustment and a challenge going from potentially always having flushers to a pointer. But hey, I'm always up for a challenge. You know, I'd really have to see where I'm at in life and you know, go from there. But I would say, if I had to make a decision like right now today, I'd probably go to like a Brittany.
The Brittany. Okay, I'm in that same boat. If I ever went pointer, I'd go Brittany. I'm not sure if it's because they're similar size and almost look to a Springer, and my brain just goes to it, or what.
Well,
Mindset.
Yeah. And I have a buddy who he's got 2 Brittany's right now, and they're phenomenal dogs. They're amazing dogs. but right now for me, it's just a personal choice and matter that, I want the Springer, I want the Flusher.
Yeah, no, I get it. We're in the same boat. Do you have any other questions, Jared?
I did, and I totally forgot what it was. Talking about, yeah. What I know we talked about it a little bit. What do you use? What guns do you use? You're
So
back
I have
east.
a
Like, are you a 12 gauge guy? Are you
yeah.
more of a 20-28?
So for pheasants, I'm a 12 gauge guy, over and under. Nothing great. It's an everyday hunting gun for me. It gets beat up. It gets beat through the brush, and I don't put a lot of time. What not time? I don't put a lot of money into a true high end, several $1,000 upland gun. Just I'm gonna hunt it. I'm gonna be beating the bush with it. Um, as far as a grouse gun, we get in woodcock here. We have some, woodcock migrate through. Obviously, I'm carrying a 20 gauge over and under there. But these are my hunting guns. These are guns I'm using several times a week for several weeks on end. Not that I don't care what happens to it, but you're grouse hunting in Pennsylvania and you're going through some nasty red brush. It's going to get beat up and scratched up just like you are. They're tools. It's not something that's just sitting in the gun cabinet per se.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I have a couple of my grandpa's guns. They're both Winchester pumps, and I love seeing where the sanders on it, where it's all worn and all the scratches on it. I just know that every mark on there is from a hunt that he was on.
Absolutely.
Much rather have that than something shiny that he had sitting in the gun safe, even if it was more valuable or more fancy, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again too, that's from your grandfather. It's cool to go. And I've taken firearms out that my grandfather used, and it's a great experience. But it's not an everyday gun for me type thing.
No.
That's something I want to keep in the family and pass on to younger brothers or something someday. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's part of the hunt. It's a tool. It works for me, and we just go with it.
Yeah. Cool. Tell me about woodcock. That's something we definitely don't have out here. Nothing I've ever hunted. Tell me about what that hunt's like with a flushing dog. Usually you associate, or at least I do when I hear about it from over here in Washington State, that you hunt woodcocks with pointers largely, or people do on average. Tell me about hunting woodcock in general, then also with a spaniel or a flusher.
Yeah. So, the woodcock migrate through. You'll start seeing them here. I've seen them in Pennsylvania. I've seen them as early as right after Labor Day, making the migration through. Usually by mid to late November, they're pretty much, depending on weather and patterns and all the normal stuff. There's a few around, but most of them have migrated through. I can honestly say they're a little tough. They're zigzagging all over the place. With the flusher, the dog. I remember the first one I killed over my dog, and it's special. But Dixie she was getting birdie, and I'm like, what is going on? She was birdie as could be, and I didn't. We were actually pheasant hunting, and I'm like, my initial thought was, there's no bird here, But again, as you guys know, like that dog's birdie, like the last thing you want to do is call it off. Let that dog find the scent. Let that dog, get that trail, right? It could be a runner, and the more time you spend with your dog, the more bird contacts you get, the more you're going to learn his or her mannerisms, or quote unquote birdie for your specific dog, right? So, she's birdie as could be. And I'm like, what is going on? And all of a sudden this little woodcock comes zipping and zagging out, and somehow I hit it. I think I may have only gotten, I'll be honest, I think I may have only gotten one, if not two, pellets in there. And it was her first one. She knew there was some type of bird there, and her job was to make it fly. But as far as habitat and stuff, they're there. They're in the thick stuff. They're not necessarily in an open field per se. I mean, I have flushed a couple in an open field midday, but they're pretty much in the nasty thick stuff. They're kind of near water, looking for those worms, that type of thing. As far as their diet goes, you can hear them. You'll hear them making that woodcock sound. But it's kind of one of those things where, we go out hunting and, we know the possibility is we could bump one or two, and it's just an added bonus bird for the day.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, good to know. It's not something we've ever out here. We definitely don't have any of the migrations. There's no migration over here for woodcock. So hearing about that's pretty interesting. It makes me kind of curious about going after one someday, maybe.
Well, yeah, they're a lot of fun. I don't care who you are. They zip and zag, and they can be tough to hit, guys. Like it's not just it's not a gimme. They're a small bird, but I'll tell you what, they're a really cool looking bird. And the ones that I've been able to take over my dog, I mean, it's been very memorable. But again, any bird you get to take over your dog or see taken over your dog is memorable. That's why we do what we do as upland hunters. To see them come with that bird back, regardless what the bird is in their mouth. I mean, that's perfect right there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Steve, thanks for coming on to the show here and talking springers with us. I appreciate you coming on. Any last thoughts for the listeners out there?
Yeah, I mean, if you have interest, just don't be afraid to go out and try. There are those individuals out there that don't know where to even start. Just start somewhere. And at the end of the day, don't put pressure on yourself. Just have fun with it, and figure out your dog and figure out what works. And if something's not working someday, don't get discouraged. Keep at it. At the end of the day, it's about the dog and having fun and, developing that bond. And I am no expert by any means. I just know what's worked for me, and just keep it safe and have it fun while you're doing it. Like I said, you only have so many days with your bird dog in the field every year. Enjoy it,
Yeah, for sure. All right, Steve, thanks for coming on. We'll let you go and get back to your day, but appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. Like I said, I think what you guys are doing is great. Hopefully there's somebody out there that can pick up a couple things and learn. And, it's really great that what you guys are doing. I totally appreciate it and respect it.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you for listening to Go Flush Yourself podcast. Check us out on Instagram and X. As an ad-free show, we are completely listener supported. If you would like to help us, please find us on Patreon for an easy $2 per month donation. We also have Go Flush Yourself merchandise available, including stickers. Check out the podcast description or the Patreon page for more information.